Hello there, I'm Rachel and welcome to Bioticish, the channel where we use science to try and explain how crazy science fiction stuff might work. Imagine this. The zombie apocalypse is upon us, ravenous, undead corpses slithering through the streets, your loved ones missing or dead, blood and rotting flesh everywhere. Okay, you get the picture. This is basically the premise of the super popular series The Walking Dead, where following a zombie apocalypse, a group of survivors wanders around in search of safety. While it's never fully explained how this whole zombie takeover happened, or really any of the science of how the pathogen works, here's the gist of what we know. Everyone, all living people included, are infected with this virus, living dormant inside of you. When you die, either by natural causes or by zombie-related causes, your organs shut down, but anywhere between 3 minutes to 8 hours later, the pathogen will bring you back to life, if you could call it life. In the show, a researcher from the CDC says that what happens is the pathogen reactivates synapses in your brainstem, and a few parts of the cerebrum and cerebellum, brain regions involved in coordinating voluntary movement. So once you're resurrected as a zombie, in the show you're called a walker, you become this slow-moving, hungry, flesh-eating, rotting carcass. Sexy, I know. And as this zombie, you're no longer yourself, just a shadow of a person without a soul, driven by instinct, showing no real human qualities. Walkers don't respond to any damage done to their bodies, so if you chop off their arm, they're like, whatever, wasn't really using that anyways. Also, zombies supposedly don't use internal organs like their heart or their lungs, so you could cut the head off of the rest of the body and it would still be chomping away. The only way to kill a walker is to destroy the brain. Okay, let's get into a bit of the science here. So the researcher from the CDC in the series showed that in the zombie brain, the brainstem gets reactivated. The brainstem is at the base of the brain and is made up of the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. Each of these three components has its own function, and together the brainstem regulates certain involuntary actions of the body, like breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and several other critical functions. It's called the most primitive area of the brain, so I guess it makes sense that in a barely human, instinct-driven corpse person, this would be the one portion of the brain still chugging along. But obviously there are a few, shall we say, gaps in the science here. Firstly, the brain is a very hungry organ. Honestly, same. It needs tons of energy. The brain consumes around 20 to 25% of the body's overall energy, which is saying something considering it only accounts for about 2% of the body's weight. The brain needs a continuous flow of oxygen and blood with glucose to function, and it can't live on without a body and vital circulatory organs to feed it. Secondly, how could the zombies walk? The motor cortex is the region of the brain involved in planning, controlling, and executing voluntary movements, but if that whole region of the brain is shut off, I'm not sure how the zombies could be scooching about all over town. Yes, some areas of the brainstem help us with coordination, posture, and balance, but that's not enough for walking or even crawling. And then, how could the zombies see or smell? Senses are processed in our brains in the cortex, the occipital lobe for sight, the parietal lobe for hearing. So again, without this brain region working, the zombies should be blind. And is there a word for not being able to smell? Smellless? Nose blind? Nose deaf? Scent? Anyways. And then just basically, how could a walker do anything without a functioning heart pumping blood? You couldn't move without the heart providing blood to the body. And I mean, come on, we need our hearts. They're important. We all know this. It's pretty clear that biology is basically screaming at us that zombies are impossible, but let's take a step back for a second and ask more generally if it's possible to bring people back to life. And the short answer is yes, but you can't be too dead. Let me explain. To start, we have to make a distinction between biological and clinical death. Biological death is brain death, and there's no turning back from that. It's irreversible. Clinical death is defined as the halting of vital functions like breathing, blood flow, heartbeat, and clinical death is actually reversible. But there's this window of about 4 minutes from the moment of cardiac arrest before you develop serious brain damage. So if you restore blood flow quick enough, you can bring the person back to life. And interestingly, that 4-minute window could work out with that zombie timeline I mentioned earlier, where the CDC dude tells us that within 3 minutes of death, the person is resurrected. While maybe not exactly as fantastical as the zombie science of Hollywood, sorry guys, here's a more plausible way this zombie virus could be working. Let's start off with the idea that this zombie pathogen works sort of like an instantaneous and really extreme dementia, causing severe damage to the cortex. If we damage the frontal lobe, this could cause the memory loss and personality and behavioral changes we see in the zombies. I guess personality changes is a bit of an understatement, but you get it. Damaging the parietal lobe, which is responsible for sensation and perception, pain perception, would explain how the zombies don't give a fuck when you hack off their body parts. The amygdala is involved in experiencing emotions. Researchers have found that stimulating the amygdala in lab animals caused uncontrollable rage. So let's say this zombie virus overstimulates the amygdala. That might explain the aggressively ravenous walking corpse man who now wants to eat his old neighbor Timmy. Now, I'm sorry, I really tried to work it out, but you need a heart to live. There's just no way around that. So in my zombie alternative here, no need to specifically destroy the brain to die, just regular old stabbing in the heart will do just fine. So to sum it up, it's biologically impossible to die and come back to life. So what I'm thinking here is you never actually completely die per se, but the pathogen damages the brain in such a way that you lose all sense of self and become a flesh-eating, grotesque, angry, walking corpse. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you think you'd survive the zombie apocalypse. Thanks for watching.